Hey everybody. It's been a while since I've done one of my video blogs, or vlog as the hipsters say, and I decided today was the day to do it. Today is March 28th, and for me personally that's a really important day. I call it my BirthGAY. No, you didn't hear me wrong. I didn't say birthday, I said BirthGAY. March 28th, 2003 was the day that I finally came to peace with being gay and found peace with God on this issue, which I thought would never happen. I thought it never would happen. And so that was such an impactful thing to happen. I celebrate it as a holiday every year, like I do my birthday, which is in June. I grew up here in Gary, Indiana, attending a Black Baptist church, and like many of us, hearing either very explicitly or implicitly that gay folks are going to hell and that we were abominations and we chose to be that way and all that kind of thing. And so you definitely internalize that. And so even though I knew I was gay since I was 13, almost 14, I never thought I would live as an openly gay man. I thought that would never ever happen. I thought that I would find a good woman to marry and that all of this gay stuff would go away. Get married, have children, be a good Christian boy. I never imagined that I would live out of the closet. Growing up, I was trying to be the good church boy. I think to some extent, like many of us do, we can sometimes suffer from the best little boy in the world syndrome, or for the women, best little girl in the world syndrome, where you always want to please people so that thing that you were trying to hide never would show its head, and it show its face. And it's not really logical, but that's kind of what the fear of all that stuff does. It's not necessarily logical. So you try to overachieve and try to please people so that this other thing never comes up and disgraces you. I think by the time it was finally in my 20s when I kind of realized, okay, well, this thing isn't going away, it seems. So what are you going to do? What's your life going to be like? Again, I never thought that I'd end up being out. So, I kept thinking, well, there's got to be a situation where I'd find a good young lady to marry and that kind of thing. And I think I was around 28 when I kind of realized that wasn't going to happen. And so that was an interesting reckoning to have at that time. So the story gets good around end of the summer of 2002. And there was an article in the local newspaper about a conference for gay Christians called Midwest Spirit Quest. And I remember reading this article. It's a short little article, but man, it was powerful. And it talked to the pastor Randy Duncan, was the pastor of the church from LaPorte, Indiana, that basically he was coordinating this Midwest Spirit Quest. And I remember in this article he talked about all the things he went through to try to not be gay. He was married a couple times and he went through exorcism and all of these things to try to get rid of it. And he finally realized that it wasn't going away because God accepted him as he was. And it made such an impact, and it caused me to finally start asking some questions that I had never asked before, because I went by what people were telling me that supposedly the Bible said. And so around August or September of 2002, I started actually doing some researching and reading and studying and asking of questions. And so for the next 6 months, 7 months, it was a lot of that, being online and buying books and praying for discernment that I would get out of this material what, God wanted me to get out of it. So we get to the spring of 2003. In fact, it was March 21st, I believe it was, and or the 22nd, something like that. No, 23rd. It was March 23rd. It was a Sunday, and after church, I decided to go to Barnes and Noble and buy some more books. And I came upon a book called Taking a Chance on God, Liberating Theology for Gays and Lesbians and Their Families and those who love them, something like that, written by Father John McNeil, who was an openly gay Catholic priest in New York. And I'd read his first book, The Church and the Homosexual. And so I saw the second book. I said, well, let me go ahead and check it out and read it and yada, yada. And again, I'd been doing all this studying and reading and praying and all this kind of thing for months. So I bought that book on the 23rd. And I remember just starting to read it that Sunday and just was completely engulfed in it. And it just was really challenging me. And just reading it all week. And I remember it got to around Thursday of that week, and I was sick with a cold and had to take a couple of days off from work. I was teaching school at the time, and just was reading and praying and reading and praying. And then on that Friday, March 28th that year was a Friday, like today is, I remember reading the book, and I was sitting there, and I was maybe more than halfway through the book, and at the end of each chapter was a prayer. I remember that. And so I had been reading something in the book, and I don't remember the exact passage, but whatever it was, it made me stop. And sitting right there, I stopped and I started talking to God, and I said, okay, Lord, we've been dealing with this gay thing for a while, and I just, this is what it is, and if you're okay with this, you need to let me know, one way or the other. And I remember at that very, very moment sitting there, and the funny thing was, I'll be honest, I was in the bathroom. I tend to read in the bathroom, and that's exactly what I was doing. I was in the bathroom sitting there reading when I stopped and started talking to God. And as soon as I said that, as soon as I took that chance to be that bold, to say, okay, Lord, I need to know, right then, a peace that just was incredible just came over me, and I was like, okay. And I knew. And at the same time, there was this remarkable peace. There was this joy. And at that moment, I recognized God's love for me deeper than I ever known it or felt it before. So at that moment, and I know some people will probably go, yeah, whatever. But at that moment, when I trusted him enough to go, okay, here it is, and I yielded, then he gave me the peace on the issue, and he was like, all right, we're ready to move on. And, I'll be honest and say that I think I was scared of God for a long time. I was always afraid, to be honest, that I would get struck by lightning because of the whole gay thing. I was very uncomfortable being outside during thunderstorms for fear that I was going to get struck by lightning. That's the truth. And so at this moment, all of that kind of disappeared because I realized that I didn't have to be afraid of him. And that started a new level for me in terms of my walk with God. It got deeper, and it was just overwhelming because I knew in a much more deep way how much God loved me and accepted me. And I remember one day in the couple of weeks that came after that, I was sitting in my office in one of the schools I was teaching in Gary, which actually was a closet. The irony, right? It was an old closet that was turned into the music office. And I was sitting there reflecting on that and just started crying because I'm like, it was so amazing because I felt so much closer to God than I'd ever felt before. And that, that threshold was crossed on March 28th. So that's the day that I celebrate as my BirthGAY, which makes me 11 years old today. 2 days later is when I actually came out to someone for the first time, and that was at my voice lesson with Randy Bisher on Sunday, March the 30th. That went splendidly well, thank God. He was great about it, and it's like, okay. He said, I wondered. Doesn't matter to me, I love you anyway. So, that was the beginning of my coming out. So, this whole March 28th and March 30th thing is a big deal for me. Everybody probably doesn't, a lot of us don't necessarily celebrate the day that we start coming out or whatever. But for me, it was so huge. It was important emotionally and spiritually and mentally. So it was a life changer. So for me, yeah, I do celebrate it every year. And I share that because I hope that there are other people out there who are still wrestling with this issue, who still believe that they are less than, who believe that they are damned to hell because they're gay. I share my story because I hope that it would cause them to ask some questions that they haven't asked before. Not to just go by what your pastor told you or you heard your family say or whatever. Find out for yourself. Seek God for it, study to show thyself approved. Study for yourself. There are a lot of resources out there, so you can ask questions and you can see how much these verses have been taken out of context. The 6 verses in the Bible called the clobber passages, which have been taken out of context and used as weapons against GLBT people. So I hope that this will inspire somebody just to take that chance on God and seek him for yourself. Do the study, ask the questions, and know that he loves you as you are. He didn't make a mistake. He sent you here like you are for a reason, and it's a beautiful thing. So that's my little video blog for today. You'll hear from me again pretty soon about some music stuff and teaching stuff, and yeah, so happy birthday to me. Later.